To part 8 of Behind the Scenes with me, Pietro Rosary. So, what we're going to do tonight is I'm going to share with you another technique that I use. I've learned that for those of us that use solid state drives, they have an unlimited write capacity. And you're probably scratching your head saying, what the heck does that mean? That means it's planned obsolescence, really. And so, one of the things that I'm going to show is for those, I'd never really understood why people got external hard drives with Macs, but I understand it a little bit now. These newer Macs, they bake and build everything into the processor, the RAM, the hard drive. It's not like the traditional game the way it used to be, the architecture. These new M1, M2 Macs, they have the memory, the SSD, and stuff built into the processor, unlike an Intel chip where the RAM is in a different place on your motherboard, as is, there's sockets to plug in an SSD or whatever. So, and I know there are people that are just, they could care less for Mac, and that's okay. I grew up with Windows, and I'm perfectly proficient with Windows also. But, again, I'm, going over this in the context of, Macs, and even for Windows, the same thing can happen with these solid state hard drives, at least with the traditional disk and platter disks hard drives. You stand a minute chance of getting your data off. I'm telling you, if you've ever had like a thumb drive and all of a sudden you plugged it in one day, or you know during winter it's dry and you get some static electricity charge up, and get zap it the wrong way, there goes all your files. They're gone. No one's going to get them back. So that's why I'm also a firm advocate of getting backups. I like using a Cronus True Image. I know that they have a lot of fancy bloatware that you load and then it backs it up as you're going online and on. I don't appeal to that stuff. I like having bootable versions or images that you can easily restore to a new disk or whatever. I also use Carbon Cloner on the Mac. That's another brand, and there's another one that I use also, but then they couldn't keep up. I forget which one it was, but you know, that's a different topic, going off way on the deep end. So what I'm going to do in this segment is going to migrate my movies, my iMovie library, okay? And so that's going to be the target of this. Now Apple says, oh, all you got to do is just move your iMovie library to an external disk and voila, everything's working. And it probably does work that way. But then if it gets disconnected, then what happens? It starts writing files right back in the movies folder, and then if you're not paying attention, there's a limited number of writes allegedly with these solid state hard drives or memory drives that are just memory. I mean, they're really cool. I mean, these were the things I dreamt of in the 80s and 90s, if you will, of wow, how cool would it be to have, my C drive on a, memory that when I power it off, I turn it back on and it's still there. Well, we're living that dream right now. But that dream can become a nightmare if you don't back your stuff up, and if you keep writing stuff to it. And even you got to be careful if I'm going to pull up Activity Monitor here. If you don't have enough RAM in your system, and I forget which one of these it is, but if you go to disk And if you see a lot of swapping or disk swapping, that can be really bad, because it don't matter if it's 2 megabytes, 10 megabytes, 20 megabytes. It is going to kill your SSD, based off of a report that I saw. And so, what can you do? You back things up, or you store them offline, or you store them on an external hard drive. Thankfully, with these USB-C Thunderbolt ports, you can get near similar performance that you can with an internal drive. I don't like, having external drives. It looks messy and cluttered. However, if it works and it saves your main SSD, why not, right? So I'm going to try and keep this under 10 minutes, and I know I'm not going to be able to. So I'm going to try and speed this up as quickly as I can. Let me see here. I don't see any swapping on this. There's I/O, there's data. Let's see here. So I think if it were swapping, it would come up or show somewhere. But in any event, it's good to see, because nothing lasts forever. That's a fact. So let me close out Activity Monitor here, and let's get to the nuts and bolts of what I'm really looking for. So for tonight's segment, so as you'll see, here's my home directory, Pieta Rosary, and you'll notice that my movie library is 79 gigs. And some of you might say, so what? That's not a lot. I got hundreds of gigs of video library. Okay, well, good for you. But what I am going to do is I'm going to migrate this off of here to another drive. And you're probably going to laugh at me, because it is also NVMe type of disk, and that's perfectly fine. Let me get that out of the way. So what I ended up doing is starting replicating Pieta Rosary and movies, and what I'll do is I'll just copy these over. Okay, so I have iMovie closed, and I'm going to copy this over, or at least I'll try to. Of course, while I'm trying to do it, I don't want to do it. There we go. So there, it's going to start copying here, 79 gigs. And it'll take about a minute. See, that's the cool thing about this NVMe. It's fairly fast. Now, again, I'll back this up on a hard drive that I also have plugged in, so that if something happens and I lose it, then I can restore it or regain it or whatever. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use what some of you may be familiar with and some of you might not be. It's called symbolic links. They're kind of like, if you will, thinking of like a Windows shortcut, if you will, or some type of, maybe not a shortcut. There are ways of doing this in Windows also. I forget the proper terminology, but you can link a directory to like another drive or whatever. Similar concept. So there you go. Okay, just finished copying here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do CD. I got my terminal open here, and I'm going to zoom in, and then I'm going to drag this directory down, iMovie library. So CD means change directory. So that's what I'm looking for. So that's what I'm looking for. But okay, so I'm going to hit enter. But I'm already in the directory where I want to be. So I'm going to go back one directory, do ls-al. And for those Windows folks out there, that's like the equivalent of typing in dir. So there you have it. So, okay. So I'm mostly interested in this one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can rename that and then set up a symbolic link to this iMovie library over here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rename this first, and I'm going to do MV to like move it. I'm going to do iMovie, and I hit tab there, L for library, and I'm going to call it iMovie library dot BAK. Okay, so there, I don't know what that did to it up here. Yeah, to change it to a regular type of directory. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a symbolic link command, and that is ln-s. So I'm going to do, I have to find the new location and pop that in as the same name that it was before I renamed it. Okay, so I'm going to do, let me see, ln dash s. That's set up a symbolic link. And then I know under Mac they mount these external drives under volumes. And then this is my 2018 Mac Mini. This is the NVMe. And then I'm going to use my account Piano Rosary, movies. Let me see here, movies. What is it? Where is it then? Movies. Okay, was a capital M. Excuse me. Okay, so then I'm gonna link it to iMovie library, and then space. I want to call it what it was. iMovie library, and I'm going to get rid of the back .bak off of that. So now that should say, well, whenever you reference iMovie library .iMovie library, it's going to point over to volumes 2018 Mac Mini NVMe Pieta Rosary movies iMovie library .iMovie library. Okay, so I'm going to hit enter on that, and let's see what that does. And there you have it. So now let me take a peek what's happening up here, and there it is. It looks like it has like a little arrow up there. So it created it. You see that? Now the only thing is that you don't want to load iMovie and then unplug that drive, right? That external drive, you want to leave it plugged in. And that's the ideal with this. You can have broken symbolic links, and that's perfectly fine. But you want to make sure that you revert it back or do something when you do this. So what I'm going to do, and the cool thing is about the Mac is even Windows does it too. So I'm not like saying, you know, I'm going to do right click and then move to trash. You know, it's not really deleted. It's in the trash can, and I can restore it at any given time. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to see if I can fire up iMovie, and it should act. Let me see here. It should just say iMovie library. So I'm not sure how this is going to roll. So let's see here. I don't know. Well, hey, let's give it a shot and see what happens here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see, I've zoomed out. I'm going to find my iMovie. We're going to launch it and witness what happens together. Okay, it's saying which library do you want to open. I'm going to say locate. Let's see here. Or maybe it'll just do it the way it is. I don't know. You know, it's already sensing that it's over here. So I may want to go back to, if it'll allow me to, the home directory. No, it won't. So I don't know. Okay, so piano rosary. Hmm. Oh, that's another directory. So here we go. Piano rosary, movies, movie library. There it is. Open. So there you go. So it has now mapped over to there somehow. So let's look back at the terminal mode and at the Finder window and see what it did. Okay, so no changes there, kind of. As you can see, that points to volumes like that. And if nothing else, even if this doesn't work for iMovie, symbolic links can be done on Linux-based system like Mac OS. You can do this in Linux. You can do this in Red Hat. You can do this in Fedora. You can do this in Ubuntu. You can do it just about in any Unix related system there. So there you have it, and it looks like it was modified today, so that's great. So there you have it. That's one way. Let me minimize that and reopen it. Now, I don't know why it has the .iMovie library on it. Oh, I know why. Maybe I just need to rename that. So let me close this again and play around with it. Because I think maybe I didn't have to put that extension, .iMovie library. Maybe I can remove that. So I can do, it's probably safer to do it up here, honestly. So let me just click and take the latter part of that off. There you go, like clockwork. Then I'm going to go back under over here. There you have it. Okay, so we both learned something together. Oh, somehow it must have doubled it up. Okay, so I must have put on .iMovie library twice when I created the symbolic link. So that's what's going on there. So let's hit iMovie again and let's see if it says, "Hey, I can't find my files. Where are they at?" Okay. I guess you can change it under settings. I haven't even really looked, in all honesty. So let's look. Is there preferences here? So I'm going to be so embarrassed if there is, because if there's a way of doing it, that's fine. Oh, that's neat. They got Ken Burns. Okay, well, that's crop type of. Okay, so let me see. Are there any other? Okay, so somehow when I typed that in, I must have doubled that up. But you get the gist of it. So let me see. Here's one of the behind the scenes and some of these other things that I've done. You can create a new iMovie or whatever. So that's really neat. We got a symbolic link there, and it links to an external disk that I have over here under Piano Rosary Movies. And I can do that with other accounts. Maybe what I should have done is create a users folder and then Piano Rosary. I can still adjust this, create a users folder and then, but, I don't plan on doing a whole lot with this. I may change it later, but then at least this way you're getting the rights on an external disk that if it blows up, who cares? Well, I mean, you do care, but what I'm talking about is that it's easy to just get another replacement disk and plug it in, if something goes offline, right? But if your main drive goes out, you got one of these Mac Minis that don't have the Intel chip, then that's a different ball game, of course. All right, so I think we're done with this segment. I know it took longer than 10 minutes. I shudder to think how long this actually took, but nonetheless, you got the gist of, using symbolic links to swap out iMovie library items that you would edit with iMovie to an external drive, if you will, linking it to another path and whatnot. So there you have it. I'm going to back that up and whatnot also. So I'm going to do right click, copy, and then I'll copy that to my other drive. Y'all don't need to stick around and see that. But with that, I think we are done. I'll catch you all at the next live stream. I know it probably took more than 10 minutes. Thank you for bearing with me, and I'll catch you all later. Thank you so much, everyone, and I'll catch you at the next live stream. Hopefully